Hello.
Hello! Greetings and welcome.
Greetings.
Let me transition back to the module.
Oh, I need to turn off my volume on the Discord, not Twitch.
Uh,
Briefly went back there after our games finished
gotcha.
up.
Yes, please don't have the stream up, because my hand is going to be on stream.
Good point.
You can have the chat up. You can just pause the video. That works.
Okay. That I think I'll just go to another tab regardless. Chat might tell me what you have. All right. So, if you watch those last two matches, you can kind of get an idea of how I play Exceed and what I'm going to be talking about here. But first of all, let's go a little bit into what we call aggressive set play. And before we get into that, I kind of want to just get into a really basic idea, which is the value of striking versus not striking. So there's if you play a strike from hand, just if I just play some random card from hand, I get some benefit out of that, which is that I win the speed tie. And if I don't play a strike from hand and I do something else, I get some benefit of that, which is that I draw a card at the end of my turn.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times when you're playing Exceed, a lot of the question you're going to be thinking is, what's the best thing for me to do right now? Which is going to come down to what gives me the biggest benefit. There are places where winning a speed tie is going to be a pretty big deal, but a lot of times in neutral, which is just like both characters don't have anything in play, they're both just kind of sitting at range 2 or 3 from each other, or one. Winning the speed tie is important for things like spike versus spike or grasp versus grasp, but it's not a big enough deal that you necessarily want to risk a lot on it. And the alternative of getting to draw a card at the end of your turn is pretty useful in terms of where your card economy is going and what you're going to be able to do in the future. So if you're thinking towards winning the game, towards getting your opponent to 0 life before you do, it's not going to come down to a single strike. It's going to come down to a lot of long-term decisions where you make very small value adjustments in terms of what you're doing, just to try to make the best moves all the time.
Mm-hmm.
However, there are cases where winning the speed tie is very important, or just being able to initiate a strike is very important, even if just winning the speed tie isn't the reason why you want to do it. That's because after you do your thing, whether it's take an action or initiate a strike, which is your action, um, even though you don't get to draw a card at the end of the turn where you initiate a strike, you get some other benefit out of it, which is you're not letting the other player change the board state before you get to take your next turn. And where this is really important is if your character functions particularly well at certain ranges or under certain conditions, and you've achieved that condition. So here for Lucia versus Iakis, Lucia performs very well at range 3, doesn't perform quite as well at range 2. Um, so if I do something that's not initiating a strike on my turn, and I'm at range 3, I might be giving up some temporary advantage, because Iakis can change the situation on his turn, and now my next turn, when I want to initiate a strike, it's not quite as good of me to do so. Since most of my cards win at range 3 and 4, I only have a few cards that win at range 2. There are other conditions, or there are ways you can increase the value of your position, of the value of being able to say a strike is happening now and not later. And this gets into what we call set play. So I don't know if D, if you're familiar with set play and fighting games.
So I thought I was. I'm not so sure.
Yeah, so I bring that up because if you like listen to Exceed players talk about set play, it can be a little bit confusing if you're from a fighting games background, and I'm not from that background either, so I don't use set play in the fighting game sense. But generally, what it refers to is kind of a flow chart of decisions that you can make throughout a match, and you just kind of like follow this flow chart. It's like, okay, the opponent does this, I do this. We're at this range, I initiate with this. We're over here, I do this, and and it becomes sort of a game plan for the entire match. In Exceed, it's a little bit harder to do that kind of thing because your deck is random. You don't know when you're going to have certain attacks in hand. You don't know when you're going to have certain boost available. So set play usually on almost all characters. There's probably a few exceptions of characters who can do the flowchart thing very well. But set play usually means you have to be a little bit more flexible. Like you have to be thinking, okay, I can give myself a pretty good advantage going into the next strike if I do this, or this, or this, or this. And I'm going to follow a bunch of short term steps that I'm going to be flexible with, like changing my plans going to the future. And so, generally, what set play means in Exceed is you're playing lots of boost. You're playing lots of boost, which give you a pretty strong advantage on the next strike, in the hopes that doing this over time gives you the most value. It also means sometimes you're just going to move to a better position by paying force if you don't have a boost that lets you do it. Uh, Usually doesn't mean stuff like changing cards or preparing or reshuffling because that's more just tempo relevant stuff, things that will affect your ability to keep moving at the same pace you're already moving. But an example of what I might do for set play is I might range 3. I might go ahead and put a speed boost in play because now my spikes and dives are a lot scarier.
Mhm.
Right? Kind of hard to deal with that.
So it sounds like aggressive set play is sort of the idea of doing like knowing when you need to do something in order to prevent your opponent from changing the state to their advantage. Is that what you're describing?
Yeah, it's a little bit of not letting the opponent change the state, but it's also an idea of you can kind of make decisions that will put you in a good state to just win the next strike. So
Okay.
set play is just making the good decisions, and then the aggressive part is you want to initiate strikes.
Okay.
There's a defensive line of set play, and there's I guess you could like have a mix of defensive and aggressive set play, but like a really defensive set play is if you like go to range 8 from your opponent and neither of you have range 8 stuff because then you're not threatening things, you're trying to draw your opponent into a bad spot and wait for them to make a mistake so you can punish them.
Okay.
Aggressive set play would be you want to initiate strikes, which means you definitely don't want to be at range 8 because if Lucia only has one thing that hits here, so it's really obvious what she's going to do, and most characters don't have anything that hits there, so it's just you're not going to be uh, acting on your threats very much. But more importantly, aggressive set play is the idea that the opponent does not want to let you do the thing you want to do. If I put +2 speed in play because I want to play Spike, my opponent's going to be thinking, I don't want him to play this, so I'm going to do something that deals with this. He might initiate with Assault because Assault still beats Spike on the speed tie or whatever. He might counter boost Sweep. He might move to a position where Spike's not relevant. So if I'm waiting for my opponent to make a mistake, chances are that I'm going to be filtering my card. I'm going to be kind of giving my opponent a better filter because I'm going to be cycling through my cards. I'm going to be taking more turns where I'm not doing damage, and I'm giving him more time to find a way out of my setup. I can have a bunch of boost in play. They're really scary, but every turn I take that I'm not striking, I'm giving him another chance to figure out a way to get out of this and to turn the tables on. So in aggressive set play, I'm not waiting for him to make a mistake. I'm looking for ways to create an advantage and then capitalize on it as soon as I can.
Mm-hmm. So why did you choose this matchup for demonstrating this?
So yeah, me and Dee are going to do a demo of the Lucia versus Iakis, and the idea here is that Iakis really punishes the defensive set play. So Lucia can play aggressive or defensive. She's really good at both, actually. And even against Iakis, she can still do some pretty good defensive stuff, and it's mostly because of Ride the Lightning system. Um, However, Iakis will make you regret it if you play too defensive. If I'm at range 1, a good boost here might be +2 power. Iakis can just strike face up on his turn, and he has +2 power, and he's winning the speed tie. And so my +2 power might not be as relevant to me. So he has ways to just turn around and say, what you're doing is no longer relevant. So if I take too long to set up on Iakis, he's going to punish me. And sometimes he's going to punish me even if I take the shortest amount of time as I can. Iakis really is really good in the hands of an aggressive player. He's pretty scary. Iakis also has some of his own set play options that function really well with that. He has this +4 speed boost, and then he can go and combine that with something like face up Dragon Spine, face up Spike, face up Sweep, face up Dive at various different ranges. Face up Dragon's Tail, which I don't have out right now, but we might see that combination show up.
It's basically sweet.
And the idea of all these things is that if you play it face up, you have +2 power, and you have +4 speed, and you're at a relevant range. and you're just going to beat anything the opponent can do to stop it. Like the best they can do is block, unless it's spike, and then they just there's nothing they can do about it. Lucia does have Ride the Lightning. It's kind of her cheat card. She does get out of some things that happen with that, but she only has 2 copies of that, so she can only cheat for so long.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to be aggressive because my opponent wants to be aggressive, and I want to do set play because I need to set up advantages to beat him, even when he's winning on his own strikes.
All right. We should switch places if we're gonna play.
Yes, we should.
Okay.
Let's do that. I have a few more things I can say, but let's play a match, and hopefully I can just kind of explain my thought process as we go.
Okay.
There's
Should we talk about any of these before I shuffle them back in?
nah.
Alright.
If these aren't all the cards, I might have missed some of them somewhere.
You got those 3 there. There you
go. Alright.
It's the right number. It's probably correct.
Sounds good. Alright. And I don't need the Yakus reference because I've been scared by him enough. Do you need a Lucia reference?
Nope.
All right.
Burned into my mind.
Heads or tails?
Tails. I'm a dragon after all.
Yep, makes sense. Alright, I'll go first. Going first is really good if you want to play aggressive because getting to decide what's going to happen on the first turn is important. Either you have the advantage at the range 4 and you just want to strike on turn 1 with your good range 4 options, or you don't have the advantage at range 4 and you want to make sure you can close the gap before your opponent gets to strike there. So yeah, I usually prefer going first with almost all characters, even season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, I'm going to mulligan to give myself some more options.
Same. Mull 2.
Alright.
Alright, good luck and have fun.
You too. This is a tricky opening. There are 2 things I'm kind of threatening here. Downburst and Mantis Strike. Downburst is kind of the quick punish if he tries to do something fast like Assault or Cross to get out of the way. And Mantis Strike is mostly good just because it gives me an important transform. If I want to do a mix-up, I'll just strike right now, but if I want to leave some ambiguity, I might do something like Prep or change the situation to my advantage by moving to range 3, which is slightly better for me. This is one of the very rare situations where I don't want to just strike right out, so I'm just going to spend 1 force, move to range 3.
I do not have the best hand here, so let's get into a position where I do.
Yep, that checks.
So my objective as the aggressive player here, and as in particular as the aggressive character, is I want to initiate a strike on my turn because I'm going to get a significant benefit out of it.
Yes, yeah, the +2 bonus means that Yakus doesn't just win speed ties, he wins speed ties and gets to possibly stun you out of whatever you can do. And Yakus has the mindset of, I'm going to prep. He has the mindset of, he doesn't need to beat everything you have, but he just needs to count on you not having the correct counter, because you'll get punished pretty hard if you don't.
Yep. Fight me.
Yep, so this is a good example of that. That's a power 5 grasp, so if I have sweeper focus in hand, I'm kind of happy here. If I don't have super focus in hand, it's going to be really obvious because I do this in Wild Swing.
Yep.
Alright, I take 5.
Take 5 and get in the corner.
Which is another bad thing for me. So already, my ideal is that I would have been more aggressive by this point. So I'm going to have to make that up at some point, that 5 life difference at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that I haven't been able to do that yet is going to make life kind of challenging.
Yep, it also tells me important things about your hand.
Yup.
Alright. This is a little bit interesting. Fight me.
That's a good one.
Yep.
Alright. So, I can beat this. And the reason D probably mentions this is interesting. And he probably knows, he knows I can at least hit him, because that's not very fast.
Yeah.
But the reason he knows this is interesting is because some of the things I do that beat this still trade down pretty hard in terms of damage.
Yep. So Talon Sweep is the obvious threat because she moved to range 1, where she has lots of room past me to advance. I showed that card off earlier, but it's a range 1 speed 6 move, which lets her advance 4 on hit, so it would send her flying this way. However, if she were to do that, I would then advance 3 and hit her back for 7 damage.
So I'm actually playing very defensively here. I'm just deciding not to take any risk and letting you miss me.
All right.
Which is actually correct in this situation. Until I'm ready to start doing my big set play moments, then should not be taking risks. Speaking of which, here we go.
Oh.
+2 speed and strike. Range 3. I said this is one of Lucia's big favored ranges. This is a really good boost. I'm combining 2 really big advantages to just deliver an important hit at the moment.
And I'm pretty much going to assume that I can't beat that, so I wild swing.
All right, so I'm going to hit you, do 4 and pull you 2, and then advance 4 and get the card engaged, doing 1 more damage.
I'm actually not stunned, unfortunately.
Yeah, that actually good wild swing. So yeah, probably one of the few things in your deck that actually handled that situation.
Yep.
So I'll take 5. But I got a key transform out of that, so I still feel like I won that.
That is an incredibly good transform. However, I also got a pretty good transform. This makes me less afraid to initiate with unsafe things because I still build gauge. On that note, fight me.
And he should have known better.
I'm okay with you being at range.
That makes sense. All right, I'm not going to spin for power, so I'm just going to do 3 and jump over here. The reason I'm doing more damage than my cards say I'm doing is because my ability does 1 damage when I pass over the opponent.
Yes, that's also why he's building so much gauge. Whenever he jumps over me, he does 1 damage and gets 1 gauge. I'm not stunned, so I get my after to retreat 1, and then this after to build extra gauge.
Yeah, this is range 5 is not good for me. Yakas has things that hit at range 5. I have an ultra, which we see 1 of, and a special, which I've already discarded 1 of. So I'm not really being a threat right now. I'm going to spend 2 force to go put some pressure on him, and then if I can strike next turn, I probably will, or I might just play a good boost that gives me really good pressure.
Somebody says my math is off. I don't know what I missed, but it's fine. Let's see. I'm not super happy with this. Alright. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to prepare. You hit me with grasp.
Yeah, that's 3, then 5, then 3. So yeah, I think it should be 1 lower.
3, 5, 3. Yeah, I guess so.
Alright, so here I either want to boost or I want to strike. I could prepare. Preparing is perfectly fine with only 3 cards in hand. And there's a legitimate reason to want to do that. However, probably just want to put pressure on the opponent since I don't know if I'm going to be at range 3 forever. So I might as well use this chance where I got it. I'm going to spend 1 force for +1 power to us both and strike. One of my transforms allows me to do that.
I really want to initiate with stuff in my hand, so I'm just going to wild swing. Hey, that's actually really good.
Why? I eat 5 damage and I get 0 gauge out of that. So
that is correct.
Really bad. So yeah, I'm kind of getting punished for all these aggressive set play moves I've done. It's gotten punished by the wild swing twice, and you're gonna think like, oh, okay, so this is actually a bad strategy. And the unfortunate reality is sometimes you just get punished. It's better to let random luck punish you than to let the opponent wait until you've made a mistake and then punish you intentionally.
That is true.
Like there's no reason to just let the opponent control when you lose.
That is luckily valid.
Yep. Good for you. All right,
that is less
fine.
good. You take 5, I take 6. I'm going to put you... yeah, I want you back at 3, I think.
Difficult decisions. All right, let's see what I burn here.
I like that one a lot, actually.
All right. Let's go ahead and create an advantage, and then see if I go into it on my next turn.
I don't want any part of this. I need to retreat, I believe.
Alright. I'm okay with this. Normally, I might just strike here, but don't have any super obvious wins, so I'm going to do the next best thing. I'm going to pay a gauge. My exceed cost is 1, so I'm just going to exceed.
Mm-hmm.
Drop some cards and gauge. The big reason I'm doing this is because it refills my hand with stuff that hopefully it'll be relevant. And this is going to go to gauge at the end of my turn. So.
Yep. Okay. Now I actually have things to be afraid of.
Oh yeah, now my aggression's about as strong as your aggression. So.
Yeah. I'm going to strike face up with an EX Dragon's Fire. That is speed 5, so it's above curve.
Yeah, no reason not to block that.
Alright, so this is 6 power. On hits, I choose not to do the thing.
Okay. 1. Let's see. 1. You need to take a look at your discards to see what else I'm getting rid of.
Makes sense. Importantly, I have dropped 0 ultras thus far. J-2S0 has some very good ultras. Especially the boosts.
Yep. I would agree with him having good ultras. Let's drop down burst. I'm not going to use it. Alright, so that's going to go to your gauge, I guess. And so why am I not striking right here? Is what you're wondering? Is what you should be wondering? Because I'm not going to be striking here.
I kind of wonder. I've only got 2 cards in hand. I feel like I'm easy to punish.
Yeah, I'm actually debating this. Like, I probably should, honestly. Okay. Yeah, here's how we do this. Pay 2 force to move 1 and initiate a strike, and pay another force for +1 power.
Huh. That's not Skies of Flame.
It is not Skies of Flame.
Yeah, so it's either Mana Strike or it's Bug Zapper. Either way, I just have to block.
Yeah, blocking is correct. Alright, this is a power 8, because I have +1 power.
5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, that checks out.
So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I should be here. Oh, but you ended up in a pretty good range for yourself.
I will...
Luckily, I'm pretty sure you're holding on to that ultra in hand, aren't you?
I wish.
Okay, I'm a lot less nervous now.
Fight me.
Yep, that is correct. I will fight you with focus.
Alright,
I'll take 4.
I take 4. My advantage?
Draw a card.
Yep. Okay, I now... I don't think I can actually afford to just prep. I think I need to change cards 4.
Yep, makes sense.
I'm glad I did that.
I'm not at a great situation for myself.
Gauge.
Let me double check some stuff. I would really like to... So I'm not the worst position, but I need some cards to capitalize on the threat, so I'm going to prep.
Alright, speaking of threats.
Yep. And I was kind of hoping he'd do that. Tech.
Oh. Well, fair enough. Prepare.
Yeah, you see, the nice thing about aggression is if I didn't have attack and I did anything else on my turn, he was going to punish me pretty hard. Which, we keep displaying why...
I think we're actually showing why aggression is strong on my side of the board.
Yeah. Which is fair. But I have to be aggressive when I have setup, because otherwise you can just find some way out of it. Alright. Armor and guard.
Fight me. Or, sorry, with this.
Cool. We both have +1 power.
Uh-oh. Oh, okay.
Alright, and I'm going to pay another force to do extra damage, so...
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
so total of 6 power.
Alright, I take 4.
Yep.
I do get the gauge, though I'm not stunned. Even though I miss, because J-2S gets to have nice things.
Okay.
Your turn.
Alright, let's see. Big threat here is that I'm going to try to kill him and he's going to try to crash out of the way, so let's get some speed in there.
I don't want that. I'll strike. face down.
All right. So the thing I want is actually still on my deck. I'm gonna wild swing. See if I get it.
Nope. Pierce.
Yep. All right. Okay. So next topic's going to be endgame. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what endgame is though right now because this is important. Endgame is when a lot of your attack calculations change because you're not trying to decide if you're going to win the strike. You're not saying fast ones beat mid speeds and mid speeds beat fast ones and low speeds beat fast things. That doesn't work anymore because as soon as he takes 5 damage, he's out, and it doesn't matter if his card's better than mine. If I can kill him, then I just win the game right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
An important factor for end game is that there's usually a certain number of outs you have. Like if the opponent's going to throw a fast move at you, you can at least throw out a block that gives you a turn to do something on your own and get out of the situation. He has both blocks down and both focuses down, so I'm considering this to be Iakis's out of his safety plays. So what I do here, +1 power to both of us, strike, and I'm going to try to go for the kill.
All right, there's 2 possibilities that I care about.
Mm-hmm. Both of them pretty dangerous.
Yes. I guess it was actually 3 total, but I don't ever anticipate a bug zapper, so like.
I was going to think. Yeah. I mean, bug zapper is dangerous too because it can kill. But
yeah,
Firefly Gunner and Ride the Lightning is what I'm assuming.
I was thinking Firefly. Sorry, I was thinking Ride the Lightning, Skies of Flame. It's not Skies of Flame. I can't count.
It's not Skies of Flame. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, then yes, Firefly Gunner and Ride the Lightning. All right, so Ride the Lightning here would have 1 printed +2, 3, 4, 5, which is exactly enough to kill.
Unless you have armor.
All right. Well then, in that case, I'm not dead to either of those options, and this also beats Bug Zapper.
Dang. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's this one. All right.
Okay. So you.
So I am gonna stun you, but I'm not gonna kill you.
Yeah, I'm at 1 life, but I'm not dead.
Yep. Which is sad.
All right.
A lot of my threats just died there, but it's fine. It was worth the attempt.
I'm.
EX gave him the out that I did not believe he had.
Yep. All right. So I have a choice, an important choice, and that choice is gonna be based on what's. Nope. All right. I'm not doing that. I'm doing this. Fight me.
All right.
It's like I can play something slower, but then I just die if he has cross. So obviously.
Yeah, so I just blocked this.
5 coming in.
Just gonna take the 3.
Oh yeah. Sorry to clarify. The joke about reading Talon Sweep is literally reading the card correctly because people often misread it as saying before Advance 4. When we say reading, when we say reading Talon Sweep, we don't mean the card effect reading. We just mean literally reading.
Okay, so either I've badly miscalculated or he's out of escapes for real this time, and I'll just kill him.
Oh. That's inconvenient.
This is Bug Zapper. Alright, so I just pay whatever amount of force I need to get closer to you, and it does lethal.
Yep. Alright, so I was debating throwing this closer, but I figured chances were too good that you had a cross. And I wasn't thinking about the follow-up, which is not good for me.
Yeah, no, that was fair. If I blocked that, then my follow-up would have been +3 speed.
So if I'd done this face up, you would have blocked that, and then you have +3 speed. Yeah, got it. Alright, that's still good for you.
Yep, I am... very important for me to go in for the kill there, because as you see, life totals are pretty close. If I'd give him in a few more turns, he might have figured out some way to make sure I had 3 less life there at the end.
Yep.
Doesn't matter if my attacks beat his if I'm dead.
Yes.
I do find it amusing your wild swings kept on defeating my ideal setups. It's like, that's pretty clever. But benefit of aggression is that if you play cleanly, like if you play sloppy aggression, you're going to get punished all over the place. It's just going to happen. But if you play cleanly and you're aggressive, there are fewer chances for luck to mess you up. If you play very safe and you play very defensive, there's lots of different ways that you can have your entire setup ruined by bad luck. Like the opponent calls out reading and you have the card that gets read, and then it's just like, okay, that's kind of bad for me.
I lose luck that way.
Yeah, or you can just have your card show up in a certain order that makes playing defensive very difficult. But if you play aggressive, you don't give the opponent enough time to kind of figure out what your deck shape is. You don't give them enough time to draw into the cards they need. Like maybe they're having bad luck, so you can just put pressure on them.
Mm-hmm.
And it works out a little bit more often in my experience. It is probably a little bit harder to do correctly though, because the difference between being sloppy on aggression and being clean on aggression is a very thin line. Whereas the difference between being sloppy on defense and clean on defense is a little bit easier to manage.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to try to run a game, or do you want to switch to in games?
Yeah. Let's see. How much time do I have?
Got an hour.
Got an hour. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Let me just go ahead and look at my documents, see if I've
Absolutely.
got all my
Yeah.
checkpoints.
You know,
checklists.
we play fast, so we're good. And if folks in
Yeah.
chat have questions, I'm keeping an eye on things.
All right. Let me go over to Twitch stream and see if anybody has questions I can answer. Let's see. Yeah, let's talk about like some different play styles and how you might handle them if you want to play aggressive set play.
Okay.
So like, in your mind, like, what are some major play styles people can have? Like, how would you describe your own, for instance?
So, I like to think that So let me actually start by, and I might have mentioned this earlier. I don't recall, but there's like two in the competitive meta for Exceed. There's two major schools of thought, which are basically the Discord meta and the Taxi meta. I personally think you and I both fall between them, but the Taxi meta, which will be talked about in the defensive set play section, hosted by Taxi himself, it emphasizes like the way I put it is you want to win the game during your opponent's turn. Like, you want to set something up so that when it's your opponent's turn, they look at the field and they go, oh, I guess I can't strike into you, or oh, I guess I'm going to lose this strike.
Yep, defender's advantage and all that.
Yep. And then the Discord meta has just the opposite idea, where they go, I want to win the game on my turn, so I'm going to strike a lot because that half point of speed is a huge deal. Now, both ideas are important, and honestly, different characters support them to different extents. So if you're up against somebody who kind of eschews setup entirely, who is a Discord meta player, so Zangief, right? Zangief rushes into your face at range 1 and just strikes, and he does not
Yeah, there's
care.
no reason for him to set up. It doesn't benefit him.
Right. That, like, there's no extra time. Like, he can boost like one thing, and then anything beyond that, there's no point. So, what do you do about a character like Zangief or Marathi or, Iron Tiger, someone who just goes, "Oh, you're at my favorite range? Well, then I'm striking, and I don't care if you have a boost in play. My stats are just better than yours."
Yeah, aggression. Dealing with like hardcore aggression is actually one of the two ways you can really falter with aggressive set play, because you're being aggressive, meaning you're striking, meaning you don't have a ton of resources. So if you make a mistake and you eat like big damage from them, and you're also striking on your own turns, and you make a mistake and they punish you for it, you're not going to have a whole lot of options to fall back on. You're not going to have as big a hand necessarily, just because both players are playing at high enough tempo that there's not enough turn to do a lot of preparation actions.
That makes sense.
So what you want to do there is you kind of want to use your boost game as a mix-up tool, right? So on defense, if I have +2 speed in play, then my boost game is kind of saying, don't strike into me because I can be safe. That way, if I get them to hesitate a little bit, I can take the initiative on my own turn next. And if they do initiate, I can choose if I'm okay with losing the strike with an unsafe option that just wins hard, or if I just really need the resources more and want something engage.
Yeah, there's the additional benefit, I guess, of if you are setting up with a boost of some sort, and they do strike into it, you don't have to rely on options in your hand, because just numerically, your wild swings get that much better. Yeah,
and in those cases, speed and armor and guard type boosts, those tend to be more valuable, just because those give you the ability to say safe versus unsafe on defense.
Yep.
Armor and guard's obviously a little bit less useful on offense, but sometimes you just have to respect the aggression.
Yeah, it's interesting because boosting power, like, you boost power, you pass turn. It's a weird kind of threat, because it says, I'm confident that I'm going to get value out of this, even though I'm passing the turn to you. So if you
Yep.
really want to strike into me, you're betting against me, and I'm saying I'm confident. Like I've already put a card down to bet on it.
Yeah, yeah. Power is fantastic because it's how you win the game. Like, right, the opponent goes to 0 life, you win the game. So power, in that sense, I think is objectively the best stat to have.
That makes
But
sense.
uh, you generally get value out of it in situations where you can either bully the opponent just because you have stats in other places that make it hard for them to contest you, like in terms of range or in terms of an auto dodge or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, or you can just put pressure on their resources somehow, so that they might just not have their answer in hand when you put down your power boost, and they just have to do something passive. And then you can initiate with that speed tie bonus, and then the power is actually really strong.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but it's definitely trickier. Power is the card you play when you say, "Please pass me the turn back so I get to take full use of this." It's where you try to scare the opponent.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I usually like if I'm using power, I'm usually threatening an EX even if I don't actually have it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and that goes really well with just scaring them into passing the turn back to you. Because if you're playing an EX and it's your turn, they know it's an EX and they're like, okay, here's all the EXs it can be. Here's what I need to be scared of. Here's how I beat it. Do I have it in hand or do I wild swing? And that makes their decisions easier. But if they see that you have plus power and a big hand of cards, they're like, what is he threatening me with here? I don't know. And if I set a card down, then you set 2 cards down in response, and I had no way of knowing you're going to set 2 cards down.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that is definitely a threat you use to. Maybe you have it, and maybe you win on defense, or maybe you just convince them to do something like move to a different range, or to stock up on cards, hoping to dig for that block, or anything else that really just passes the turn back to you, so you get to do your really aggressive thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, boost wars are always interesting. So they're alluded to earlier. I think Andrew was the first one who mentioned them actually. Boost wars are when one player boosts and the other player boosts in response, right? Like, the thing that I find kind of interesting about them is if I boost, and then you boost something different, right? I boost speed, you boost power, or you boost defend. Then you've agreed that you're participating in the game that I started. I'm like,
Yep.
You're passing turn back to me, and you think that you can win it in a different way than I am. So it's very
Yeah.
like boost wars when they're asymmetrical are really interesting because they turn the whole thing into a mix-up. If we're both boosting the same thing, not much is changing. But sorry, specifically I'm thinking of speed here. If we both boost speed, or if I boost speed and then you tech it, not much changes. But if we're boosting asymmetrically, like the dynamics of a strike can change massively because breakpoints go all over the place.
Yeah, the other thing about boost wars, and the reason sometimes they're good for you if your character has lots of good boosts, but uh, you you generally don't want to prolong them too much because you only have a certain number of really good boosts in your kit. Like Lucia only has 2+3 speeds. She only has 2+2 speeds. Well, she does have +2 speed and strike, but we'll put that to the side. She's really blessed in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Like she only has so much plus speed. If you're someone like Akuma, you only have so much plus speed in your deck.
Mm-hmm.
Like you only have a few of those copies of boost that are really going to shift the tide. And so if you're just like laying down a bunch of boost, there's one or two things that are going to happen. You're going to pay out huge, or the opponent's going to do something that diffuses the whole situation and punishes you for it. And honestly, paying out huge is the correct move a lot of the time. Like I know you like to just start laying down boost, and you're confident the opponent's not going to be able to stop it. So it's just the longer they let it go on, the better off you are.
Yeah,
but the other side,
stacking my advantages.
Yeah, the other side of that is that if your boost aren't consolidating your advantages, like if you're leaving a gap in your defenses, the opponent finds it and they take out all that setup you've done, you don't have those boosts again until you do a reshuffle, and then after you've done a reshuffle, you don't have them at all for the rest of the game. So you only have a certain number of attempts at that kind of thing. So my preference when I play is to just kind of reduce the number of times where I have to make that kind of gamble. Like reduce the number of times where I'm counting on my next card to be a good boost, so I can continue the boost war.
Mm-hmm.
That way, I'll win some and I'll lose some. But the ones that I win, or the ones that I lose, more importantly, won't put me out of the game. The ones that I lose, I still have another boost war to try.
Yeah, I remember that I had to learn that generally whenever I let you set the pace of the match, I lost. Um, and it was that like, oh, I'm reacting to you every turn, and
Hmm.
if I don't break out of that pattern of you do a thing, I respond to it, you get to initiate with your advantage. You get to, you know, land your grasp reposition. You get to do your whatever it is that you want. If I don't
Yep.
find a way to break out of that, I will lose all the time.
Yep. And it's not even going to be a case where I always have cards in hand that are relevant for initiating. Like, I'm not actually good on my threat to just put that pressure on. But by playing in a way that where I'm setting the tempo, I'm not giving the opponent much room to make guesses on that account. Because if they guess wrong, they're just going to eat a bunch of damage.
Mm-hmm. I'd also like to remind the audience that there's an option that you might not consider at times, which is you play a boost going, I'm threatening this option, right? I'm threatening my above curve whatever, or I'm threatening this thing, and your opponent plays scared of it, and they're preparing or they're doing something passive or defensive, and you need to play that option, but you don't have it. Well, count your cards. Like,
Hmm.
consider wild swinging, because wild swinging is deceptively useful, because if it's your turn and you have a boost in play in particular, you have a compound advantage that can turn a lot of things in your deck that would normally be kind of questionable into surprise wins. Also, an advantage of wild swinging that I'm personally fond of is it tends to make opponents play riskier things. Like,
Yep.
if the opponent plays the safest possible thing, your wild swing will usually not win, because wild swings usually don't win against the safest possible thing. Like,
You say as I lost two somewhat safe trades against your wild swings.
I mean, in that case, I was playing the safest possible thing, which was focus. I just didn't know I was playing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, but but yes, if you wild swing and your opponent's like, this is an opportunity for me to be greedy, and then they're greedy, then a statistically significant portion of the time you'll get a payout, and they'll have wasted options from hands. That's super important. Like, if you wild swing and they wild swing, it's a crapshoot that leans in your favor. If you wild swing and they strike from hand, it leans in your favor, and they're burning resources that they didn't need to.
Okay, I
So,
feel like there's one other thing I need to bring up before I transition to end games, which is if you're trying to do aggressive set play and you're against a very defensive player, like someone who's okay just camping you out, or just always playing safe fast options, or maybe some other thing that allows them to just be really safe without having to put a lot of active pressure on you.
mm-hmm,
Um, that I find tends to be a very scary situation.
mm-hmm,
Because if you're playing against someone aggressive, you win or you lose, and it tends to happen quickly. But against a defensive player, they can kind of whittle down your options and see what you're doing, and just kind of like based on what you've already played and where you're at on the board, they can just say, "Well, he can only do a few things, so I'm not actually scared of him anymore." And if you're playing aggressive, the last thing you want is for your opponent to feel like they're safe, and to have a good reason for believing they're safe.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fine if they feel that way and they're wrong.
Yeah,
It's not good if you feel that way and they're right.
yeah. So like something that a very defensive player might do is they might just you initiate at range 4 and they play cross, and now they're at range 6, or maybe there's some situation where they end up at range 8 because they play cross, because cross doesn't win but it doesn't lose either, and it puts them in a position where if you want to get back in your face, you're going to spend a lot of resources to get back over there and start pounding on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not 100% sure on like what you do in that particular case. But I do think the aggressive player should not worry too much about this. There are two things you need to focus on. One is being clean. Like, you don't want to play a card in your setup when every single thing you do loses to one of their options. Right? If they have one super fast option that beats everything you could conceivably do, you need to assume they're going to have it because they're playing safe, meaning that they wouldn't have allowed you to put the situation in place in the first place if they didn't have an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You need to focus on setting up things that never allow them to be completely safe. Or if they are completely safe, you throw out a bluff like a block and get them to waste their safe stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is you need to be somewhat confident about making an approach on them. Right? So there are ways to deal with the range 8 situation that don't leave you at a forced disadvantage. But if you're going to win the game, it's because one of you is going to go to 0 life and it's going to be them. So at some point, you're going to walk back towards them. And if that costs resources, just wait until you have enough resources in the hand to spare and go back in. And if they've been playing defensively, you can be kind of confident they're not going to punish you for waiting a few turns. So you can afford to kind of match their defensiveness a little bit because you're just not they're just less likely to punish you for it.
Yeah. If there's somebody who let the fight go to extreme range when neither character has extreme ranged options, then it's they're probably happy to let the match progress at a slow pace, and they will allow you to set the pace when you're ready to, which is always dangerous for them.
Yeah. On the other hand, if you're facing someone like Renea, who is going to punish you for being in range 8, it's sometimes correct to just dump your hand and pace engage and get in there, because it's gonna you're gonna be relying on luck to top deck the correct answers. Yeah, but better than just getting shot with called shot.
Yeah, and actually, let me provide a contrast on the note of called shot and information, which is if you are playing so aggressively that you're never at really a full hand, you're never sitting back and prepping up to 7 cards, you're maintaining a hand size of like 3 to at most 5, or 2 to 5, then playing opportunistically, where you reposition in 1 or 2 spaces at a time to go, what's my favorite range, where does my opponent not want to be, and then playing those boosts to bolster your attacks and threaten things so that you have statistically better chances when you wild swing. This minimizes the number of options that your opponent can actually figure out that you are holding onto, which is important because it means you represent your whole deck as a threat. Because if they know you're likely to wild swing, then they can't rely on you playing a particular way. Whereas if you know they're playing safely, you can play a cross counter at range 1 and expect them to cross out or something like that. You'll hear a little bit more about that when in the section on Fearless Disrespect later, because disrespect is how we refer to the idea of, I don't care what you're going to play, I'll play an unsafe option. If you have a safe option, I'm going to make you play it, because you don't always have it. Especially if you're playing aggressively, they just aren't that far through their deck.
And we'll also have a segment on more defensive playstyles, so that you'll have an idea of what to do against players who try to do aggressive set play. So, like, the defensive playstyle isn't bad. It is, in fact, I think it's very good in the sense that if you play it correctly, it's a little bit harder for you to make mistakes. So the aggressive playstyle requires that you play very clean, and I don't do that all the time, and I make mistakes and I lose games just because I make mistakes. But if you play defensively, it's a little bit easier to learn how to play your character correctly. And if you pick characters that synergize well with it, maybe your opponent just is never going to be at the level where they can handle that.
Mm-hmm. That is one of the beautiful things about Exceed, is that whatever your playstyle is, you can almost certainly find a character who rewards it well. There's a wide variety of playstyles that are supported by a hugely, like a ridiculously large cast. We've got 4 seasons, soon to be 5. Keep in mind that Season 1 is perfectly fine in casual play. It's just no longer legal in competitive play. But with a couple of exceptions, these characters are all perfectly reasonable. If you're going to play Alice, be warned, she's actually overpowered. But, you know, for the most part, they're fine. So, like, we have a huge cast of characters. You can find somebody that suits you.
Yep, agreed. So let's talk a little bit about Endgame. And we're going to move over to this board over here that I've kind of set up a little bit. But when I say Endgame, I'm kind of referring to a specific phenomenon which will happen during actual gameplay. And I'm going to try to show off what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's pretend that this is not Fight and Imogene. We're just two generic characters. Go ahead and draw like 6 cards or whatever.
Alright,
and I have however much life left, and he has 3 life. So in-game is that point where I can have this in hand, and I can play it, and I can say, I don't actually care about what Grasp loses to, because if it hits, which it will, like it's probably going to go first unless he has EX Grasp. If it hits, then I'm just going to do the damage, and then I win. So, like, did you draw block or focus? If you didn't draw one of those, you probably have to wild swing to try to get it. But
nope.
No block or focus. Let's see if you get it in your first 2 cards of the wild swing. Really good odds that you would have found block or focus somewhere in your first 8 cards. It didn't happen, but I played Grasp and I just won the game because he had 3 life left. So in-game is the type of position you have to be in when the reasoning you use for what you play and what you don't play changes completely. Grasp, I normally don't regard as a very good attack. I play it all the time just because I like to have cards engaged, and Grasp tends to go there. But as an attack, it loses to a lot of stuff. Like, it loses to Sweep pretty hard. It loses to Focus pretty hard. It'll lose to things that have transforms on them and good defenses that you don't want the opponent to get pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like it as an attack most of the game. But during endgame, grass suddenly becomes one of the best cards in the game because the opponent has 3 life. I see that they have like 2 focuses and discard and a block engage. I'm like, this probably just wins no matter what. So that's the theory behind endgame, is that your calculations on what's good and what's bad changes completely because you're just trying to get them to 0 life. You don't care about winning a trade. The implications of this are that fast cards are better. So like Grasp is better at range 1 than it used to be. Cross is better at range 3 than it used to be, which is hard to believe because Cross is probably one of the best cards in the game.
Range 2, I think you meant.
Yeah, range 2. Assault's insanely good at range 3. Do you know why that is, D?
Yes, that is because Assault grants advantage. So if your opponent can't get out of the way, then Assault can eat through a block because... Oh, fine, you assault me. So you hit that block, they gain armor, that's their block down, now you're at range 1, so you can throw a Grasp or another thing and win a speed tie. So,
but D, what if they don't block the assault? Like maybe they know that's what you're doing.
Well, their choices are they crossed out or they're dead.
Yeah, if they don't block the assault, they die the assault. So it's like assault's amazing. So assault's a bad card most of the game for a lot of characters, not necessarily for every character. You use assault for important things. But in-game, assault goes from being a situational card that you use for solving certain problems to a card that just wins the game. Because jumps in, maybe does some damage if they forget to block, and even if they do block your next turn, you have the advantage, you just kill them. Let's see. Sweep and Focus. Focus is still good because it has 2 armor on it, but it's not good enough that it'll keep you alive through in-game necessarily. You have to kind of read the mix-up to know if it's going to work or not. If you're at something like 6 life, Focus is amazing. But Sweep, at about 6 life down, Sweep becomes a lot less valuable as an attack. 2 reasons. First is obvious, it's pretty slow, meaning it's not going to hit first. So if the opponent can just do their damage, then you're dead, and it doesn't matter what your Sweep does to them. What's the other reason, D?
The other reason is that it has this boost on it, which is +2 speed, which can take any of your other attacks and make it that much better, especially in an in-game scenario.
Right, so if going fast is what wins in-game, speed boost makes you go fast, which obviously you want to do that.
Gotta go fast.
There are things you have to watch out for during in-game, which we kind of alluded to. You need to count the way your opponent's outs. An out is something the opponent can play to not die that turn. So block is usually an out. Focus is usually an out in some degree. Other characters, like Tross is an out to long ranges because they get out of the way. Other characters will have things that automatically dodge at certain ranges, or things that are just absurdly fast, and those also count as outs. And so you need to count how many outs your opponent has. You need to see how many they have in engage, how many they have in discard, and how many they might have left between their deck and their hand. And you kind of want to bait their outs. So like if I'm at range 1 and he has 3 life, but he has both blocks in deck or hand, I might not play Grasp. I might do something like a Sweep because I want to try to bait out a block. And then if I have enough life, even if the trade goes badly for me, I still have another turn to get that kill confirmed. One important factor that shows up when you put these 2 things together is that hitting first is important in an endgame, and that kind of wintering down your opponent's outs is important. Assault at range 3 into a Grasp, that's a really standard way that any character can just deal with it, getting rid of a block. So just removing it out. We discovered that some characters, by their nature, have vastly better in-games than others. I'm going to refer to Imogene as one of these characters. Honestly, all 7th class characters have solid in-games because they get transforms, which ramps them up. Their Exceed side usually has something that gives them in-game potential. Not in this case, but her transforms make up for it. So Imogene's great at in-game because she'll have a bunch of transforms, which make her a lot stronger. Her transforms have life gain on them, meaning that she can kind of duke it out a lot longer in in-game. So she's only at 3 life. She's not dead from your Grasp because when she wild swings, she gains a life, and she's at 4 now, and your Grasp is not lethal. And I think Imogene's probably one of the strongest in game characters. There are stronger ones for sure.
Yeah.
Renea and Tai.
The other thing, if I may, the other thing that Imogene has that's in common between these two characters actually is when she is reaching that late game point where she has 2 or 3 transformations, and if she has some of her stronger cards available to her, her in game is sooner than yours. So she's got 6 life, and it's like you're not going to kill her with 1 attack. You've got 10 life, she can kill you with 1 attack.
Yep. All she does is it's not guaranteed all the time, especially if she's on Trent's side. But it's like at this point your cards are low in deck. You can kind of count cards and see what you have left. So you play this, you get +3 power.
Yeah. So to be clear,
you won't swing into another one and get +3 more power. Then everything in your deck just kills.
Yep. So notably, the reason we're highlighting this card is not for the attack. It's for the effect on the attack, which says if this is invalid, meaning you could not afford the gauge cost, or you wild swing it and chose not to pay the gauge cost, because you can choose not to validate an ultra if you wild swing it, then the replacement attack gets +3 power. So you can set such a divinity from hands and go, well, sorry, first you count your cards and you go, man, I've got like a bunch of fast options in my deck. I'll strike from hand with this, and I'm basically saying I have +3 power and strike. I just don't have perfect control over what I'm striking with. And that's a that's a sacrifice that's worth making.
So when you see this, when you've played against Imogene before and you realize how good her endgame is, this should affect the way you play endgame in an important way, whether you're as Imogene or against her. If you were playing as Imogene and you know your opponent can't keep up with your endgame indefinitely, you have room to be patient. Like, you don't have to get a kill in 1 turn, because the longer the match goes on, the more chances you have to get rid of their outs, like narrow down their options to get out of stuff. You'll be continually like healing passively through a variety of effects, meaning that you aren't going to die. You aren't going to die in 1 hit as easily as they are, and you're giving yourself a better chance to find that 1 card that's just going to finish it. Whereas if you're playing against Imogene, the opposite logic obtains, because you need to stop her before all of your outs are gone, and she just has a guaranteed kill. So it becomes a little bit more important in this for the opponent of Imogene to care a little bit less about her outs. Like, if you can tell the opponent is going to play block, obviously respect the block. But you want to go for mix-ups where block isn't obviously the correct choice for Imogene, and you can find other ways to finish her off before you've confirmed that she's out of defensive options. Because you're going to run out of those before she does. Your power budget's going to run out before her power budget does. So you need to make good on your threats and in the end game fast, if you can. It's worth taking risk in end game if you've let the opponent get you down there at the same level as you are. Ideally, Fight versus Imogene. Fight doesn't let Imogene get into end game. But if he does, if he's got the situation established, he's still strong enough during end game to get a win, and so he needs to take advantage of his strengths before they're kind of neutralized and just hedged around, but with good playing around the odds. So we're going to do a quick demonstration game, and then maybe another one if we still have time, which we probably will. I don't know. We're going to start at 10 life. Technically, neither of us are actually in end game yet. Like, Fight's not an end at this point, but Imogene could be if she rolls high on wild swings. Like, she can kill in 1 hit, absolutely.
Yeah.
What we're going to do is we're going to kind of simulate what it looks like approaching end game. I'm going to start in exceed mode. D is choosing not to do so because he prefers Imogene's front side.
That's correct.
We're each going to start with 3 cards of our choice engage. D is going to have the option of paying a life to gain an extra card engage. Yep. D can also, instead of putting cards engage, put them in transform area. So we're just kind of simulating the effect of having the early part of the game go reasonably well for both of us. Which, again, Fight versus Imogene, you probably want to win before you get to this point. But if you haven't, then here's what you try to think about. Let's see. What else do I want to engage? Probably another special, because I feel like those aren't always my outs or my win conditions.
Yeah, they're useful tools, but they are kind of lacking in power.
Yeah, let's go ahead and put 2 power jumps in there. Easy to get them in there, so it's simulating correctly at least. Alright, so in this match, we both considered to use a reshuffle. And we're going to filter. How many cards do you want to say off the top of the deck? 7? 10? 7 sounds correct.
Okay, 7 seems fine.
And then, I guess we did this in an awkward order, but then we're going to go look through our deck for some cards to say that we've been had a chance to get the type of hand we'd want.
Yep, I've got some.
Hopefully we didn't lose all the cards we wanted from the discards. So we're going to go.
I've got some
get 4 card.
Good stuff down, but I've got some good stuff up. 4 cards.
Yeah, we're gonna, 4 cards of our choice. And then we'll flip to see who's going first, and the second player will have the option of moving 1 and 2 spaces before the game starts.
Where's the coin?
This seems like a reasonable starting hand. Alright, so yeah. Heads or tails?
Tails.
You may choose to move 1 and 2 spaces if you like, otherwise we'll stay here.
We will stay here. That's my favorite range.
Makes sense.
But hold on. So I'm going first. So now you can choose to move, right?
Oh, in that case, I do not like your favorite range. Let's get out of there.
Makes sense. Alright, so I'll take the first turn. I'm going to spend 2 force, gaining a life.
And the battle begins to see who's going to take advantage of the situation first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Fight has a really good card at range 3 to 5, which is why I want to be away from her, because it ignores armor, which takes care of her outs. She wants to move in because all of her cards generally tend to be good at range 2. And also, he knows that I'm not good at range. I'm better at long range than she is.
Mm-hmm.
Fight's better than imaging.
Yeah. So a lot of handling in game, as a lot of handling Exceed in general, is know your favorite range, know your opponent's favorite range, be where they don't want you to be.
Alright, I'm going to be cheeky and Strike and spend some force for power. Fight can do that. That's his ability.
That's
so it's 3 force for 3 power. Yeah,
okay.
I'm going to try to see if I can push things a little bit closer towards the end game that I want instead of just one that's favorable for imaging.
Yeah. Cross and retreating bolts are both good here. So I want something that is kind of sweep-shaped, probably. Wild Swing, please hold while I use my character ability. That is not sweep-shaped.
Alright, so gain a life, spend a life.
Yep. This will cover retreating. I'm dead wrong, though.
Yep, I just went greedy. It's like, if he blocks it, I might lose the match, but what I said earlier is I'm not searching to make sure all of his outs are gone. He has 1 block gone. I'm just trying to make sure that some of his outs are gone, and then I can just try to finish the match before he gets going.
Yep, light.
Ooh, ain't that scary.
I'm fine with this because he spent a lot on that, and I've still got my cards.
Yep, I'm gonna spend a card from hand to move 1 closer. Hopefully I don't die in 1 hit. That's what I'm really wanting right now.
Alright. I'm going to take a risk, but it's going to be a fun risk. Alright, so I'm
Oh,
spending 2 force.
So you spin a gauge, so you gain a life.
Yep. Strike, you must defend with the Wild Swing, and I have after gain advantage.
Yep. And I'm going to be looking at what you Wild Swing before I choose my attack, since you have to face up your Wild Swing.
If I set a Wild Swing. Yeah, I don't have to set a Wild Swing.
Yeah. So if you face up your Wild Swing, that probably means I can decide whether or not I want to spend force on this. So I'm not going to spend force on this because I have no idea if I can even win.
Alright.
Oh boy.
TD?
Oh boy.
Dang.
Alright, so.
Game's actually over now.
Yeah, I actually win the game there. Just took 2 strikes. And only reason I was able to make that work, like this was massively favored for, not massively, but slightly favored imaging. And the only reason I was able to make it work out this way is because I went ahead and took a bit of a risk, hoping that he didn't have block in hand, and got some damage on him. And then I just got lucky on my Wild Swing. But the luck was created because I was willing to play for a fast end game, for a quick one. rather than trying to boost a bunch and trying to keep up with him as he got to do all the things he wanted to do. Because
Right.
if I guarantee that if he got into what he wanted to do, I would have needed a lot more luck to win.
Yeah.
Like I was going
And you stayed out of my
luck.
favorite range. If you hadn't
Yeah,
closed one, then I would have done
mhm,
9 damage here and gotten
yeah,
advantage.
yeah. Like luck might have gotten involved. I might have won without luck, but if I'm going to win without luck, it's because I'm going to win quickly.
Hmm.
Whereas you might win with luck, but you don't necessarily have to have luck if I let you take enough turns.
Right. If you give me enough time, then I will set up a combination like this, which at range 2 is going to be unbeatable. It's not
Yup.
unbeatable at range 1, but I decided I couldn't afford to spend time on it.
Yup.
Jose
All right.
Maria says, so basically sometimes it's better to just go straight for it.
Yeah,
Essentially.
absolutely.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, and
especially
that's
if
that's
you're,
the
counterintuitively, if you aren't advantaged, then you need to be the one who is exerting more pressure.
yeah,
Is
and
what
that's
it
the
comes to.
logic of end game, right? Like end game, it doesn't matter how much you're throwing away on an attack. Like I threw away 2 gauge and 3/4 on this attack, and that's kind of risky. It's actually a really good attack, so it's not too risky, anyways. But you could say it's kind of risky with another character who has less guaranteed damage on his stuff. And the thing about end game is that if you're gonna win, you're gonna win. It doesn't matter how much you threw away to make it happen.
Hmm. Yeah. The only life point that matters is the last one. The only card that matters is the one that won.
Yep.
Alright, do you want to do
Yep.
another demo?
Yeah.
Same or switch?
Let's switch. This one's a lot scarier for me because the one we just played, fight can plausibly win in 2 strikes and does it very, very effectively, like we just saw. And also, even if it's stalled, he still has lots of options to just get good draws against bad draws from Imogene. We're going to be doing Akuma versus Zolt. Zolt has a very different end game than Imogene. In fact, Zolt is one of the few characters who has a stronger end game than Imogene.
Yes. This is because if y'all were here for the speed curve section earlier, I made a point of pointing out one of Zolt's cards, Fatal Eye, which is range 1 to 3, speed 7. That is 2 points above curve at range 3, meaning you're going first. So he has an option that is just absurdly fast, and as we've established, in an in-game, fast tools are incredibly important.
Yep.
All right,
So,
which side are we
my
playing?
goal for this one is to get lucky. Like, I honestly don't think I win. Like the way you beat Zolt is you just don't let him get to this type of end game. Even with Akuma, who has a pretty good end game himself.
Yeah.
Uh,
Now, I'm not at my strongest point, which
yeah,
is to say I'm not at 4 life. If I was at 4, or I think 5 life is the other thresholds, I would be
yeah.
probably unbeatable.
Well, you'd be unbeatable if you took the first turn for sure.
True. That's actually pretty important.
uh, at this point, though, it's not the worst situation for me because I can still kill Zolt in 2 hits, and even if I had 20 health, Zolt could possibly kill me in just one sequence of things he can do. So looks bad, but not the worst. Just need things to go slightly in my favor for the first turn to work out well.
Yep. Same principle as before?
Yeah, so let's choose gauge, then discards, and then hand.
Oh, wait, so we're choosing first, then we mill. Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
Don't abuse the choose gauge too much with ultras engage unless your character can actually put ultras engage.
Yeah, no, not at all. Like, I wouldn't even want to, considering that I need to have this transform and this
Oh, by the
transform.
way, D, can you explain to them why I just put Assault, a card I spent a lot of time saying how amazing it is during endgame in my gauge?
I mean, it's not as good. Well, so it's worse than my options, right? Like it loses
Yep.
to my speed 7 range 3 attack, loses at ranges 2 and 3, and also Akuma actually has better tools. So
Yeah.
what Akuma cares about is getting his speed boost into play, and also he has a card called Goshoryuken. This is a speed 7 attack that hits ranges 1 and 2, so it is actually as good as my Fatal Eye, as long as we're not at range 3, in which case it does nothing. But like Assault is just not worth using because defensively it doesn't really filter anything that I'm going to use. Offensively it's not too bad, but like you need to have something to bulk it up, like a defend boost. Alright, let's see.
Yep. Well, I didn't have the worst possible discards. I still have one ignore armor card in my deck.
Yeah, I've got to decide on a third card to get out of here. I mean, nobody's going to play a block or a focus or a sweep against Akuma. That's suicide.
And Zolt doesn't need defensive options. He wants to win on aggression.
Okay, so is it mill 6?
7.
I think you're one short then.
Oh, whoops. Let me put these back in my deck. That's a shame. If I lose one of these two options, I'll be in trouble. Okay.
Oh, that's fine.
That's not... Yeah, that's fine.
It's a good card, but not an important in-game card. This is kind of awkward.
Oh, did you mill out a Fatal Eye?
Yep.
I'm very happy to hear that. Means you won't necessarily kill me on your first hit.
Alright.
Whoa.
Hmm?
Oh, I need to change names.
Oh yeah, you're still green.
I was like, I can't see my cards. How did that happen?
There we go.
Alrighty. Alright. Ready for the flip?
Yes, I'll call tails, as always.
Oh, thank goodness. Alright, I'll take first.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna move over here.
Sounds pretty good.
And remember, y'all, this is a simulation. This is not, like, the way we just set up is not how you set up a game of Exceed, if you're new.
Oh, yeah.
This
is
we
like
are emulating what it's like to be in an in-game scenario, which will happen, you know, like 75% of the way through a game.
At best, this is an alternate game mode where you get to test really janky stuff, where characters aren't necessarily balanced against each other this way. So, all right, let's get some of that speed out there. Okay. The obvious reason I played this and not the +3 speed is I might want to be baiting out a tech, or I don't have the +3 speed. You know, it's possible.
+1 speed and strike with this transform.
Oh boy.
So part of the reason I'm confident in doing this is because I see 1 cross is down, which means EX cross is not a threat.
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see if there's anything that he has that just outright wins here. Okay, I think Fatal Eye is the thing that outright wins here. So that means I'm not going to crit. Because if I'm D, I don't think there's any reason why I don't start with Fatal Eye. Alright, I'm going to Wild Swing.
Yeah.
And not give you the power you need to finish me off this turn. Yep.
Yeah, one of the things about Zolt, by the way, is Fatal Eye is an incredibly good card. So if you're up against the Zolt, try to force him to use it early. Because if he uses it before he exceeds, it's a lot weaker. Draw for my hit effects. Yep. I will end the combo there.
Okay. And this might be the last turn for me, so let's find out.
Ideally.
Did I keep the card that wins?
+1 speed.
Alright, so that's going to be the Assault. And if it's not the Assault... So the thing is here, I'm going to Wild Swing, but I'm also going to crit, because the only way I win this game, I'm pretty sure. Actually, let me think. That's Assault, do I have it? Yeah. If I have anything that's good for critting here... Yeah, it's just not correct for me to crit. I need to Wild Swing a block.
That's correct.
Let's see if that happens.
You do not.
All right, yeah.
All right.
Another humans and 2 strikes.
Yeah. So
this is a case where I technically say that Akuma needs to win faster.
Yeah, Akuma is like the rushdown.
Yeah, and the reason he won in 2 strikes is just because he can.
Yeah, this is because Hunter of Men is incredibly strong. So Zolt is more than any other 7th Cross character, a character who is unstoppable when he gets to all of his stuff. You get 2 or 3 transformations, you exceed, and if you have the right tools.
Hold on a second. How many cards did you have in hand? You're gonna draw one.
I drew one on hit. I spent the one I drew. I played this. Yeah. I spent this. I played this.
Okay, just making sure. Yeah, okay. You do have lethal.
Yeah. Just barely. I needed basically. Yeah, I needed not to draw slightly worse than that, but it's fine.
Yeah. I did take a gamble by not having this boost in hand at the start of the game. Just on the off chance he wanted to that he got first turn and he tried to parry something. I didn't want him to hit anything.
I was a little surprised that you didn't start with this and boost it, yeah?
Yeah, now that I think about it, that was correct to just start with that and boost it. But
Yep.
such is life.
Mm-hmm.
Zalt does a lot of obnoxious things that
Yeah.
are hard to think about.
I decided up front that I was going to be aggressive, so I started with tools for offense. I did not start with the tech in hand.
Yeah. Which, you know, is correct. Like, that actually, like, there's no reason he should be trying to parry stuff out of my hand when he can just win.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Little bit of time till the next session starts.
Yeah. We're free to break for a bit and just chill if you want. If you want to do more, that's up to you. What's your
Yeah,
preference?
I'm going to go ahead and give everybody a break, myself included.
All right. And I will be taking a brief recess as well. We will be back in about 15 minutes. Thank you for your time, Jay. And if y'all have
thank you very
questions,
much.
post them in Twitch chat or in the Exceed Workshop channel, and somebody will talk. All right. Later.